Ford KA with a rumble from what sounds like the front, so possibly wheel bearing. And when you actually spin this on the ramp, you can't feel or hear anything, so there's no play, there's no rumble. So it's not like it's that badly worn that you could detect it with no load. So what we're going to do, we're going to apply NVH. We'll do an initial road test, so that's an accelerometer on the seat and a microphone hanging up inside the cabin, see if we can pick up the noise there. And then we'll use what we call multiple sensor mode, so that's where we actually apply the sensors to the wheel, using them as stethoscopes in effect. But the real beauty is we're going to be on the road, so there's load going to be on the bearing. So let's see how we get on, and I'll show you the setup right now. Okay, so it's Mongoose into OBD connector, 4-channel PicoScope, and the yellow cable is going to an interface that actually connects to a microphone that is purely mounted up inside the cabin. And then we have a 3-axis accelerometer that is mounted on the seat frame there. Notice the orientation as well, it's vertical with the screw thread facing forward. So from that we'll get the 3-axis of vibration. Well, we don't have vibration, we're interested to see what we do get, but more importantly we'll get the audio of the bearing. So to set up NVH, click on the NVH button and we're going to start a new test. So we'll follow the wizard as though this was a completely new software, new setup, new vehicle. J2534 is what we're going to connect with via the OBD. So we'll wait for Mongoose to connect to the vehicle. There we are, and it's acquired the VIN number as well. Click next. Now this is an inline, I believe it's 4-cylinder. At this stage I'm not too concerned. It's front wheel drive, and this is the important bit. It's 195/50 capital R 15, and use the same for both front and rear. We have a 3-axis interface, 3-output interface, sorry, with a 3-axis accelerometer connected, and it's already mounted on the seat. You can see there, if I actually tap the seat, you'll see you'll get a response. We mount it in the correct orientation as you saw in the video, and we can finish there, but we need to add another channel. So we want 3-axis plus single channel. So this gives us now the option to use channel D, and as you saw on channel D we had a 3-axis interface, but we have a microphone connected. They're both in the passenger compartment. This is important. Let's go, I'll call this near side front seat frame bolt, or seat rail, sorry. Near side front seat frame rail, and this is rear view mirror. Just so as we know when we come to review the data where everything was fitted. Okay, so let's just quickly summarise. It's 3-axis plus single channel. It's a 3-axis interface with a 3-axis accelerometer, 3-output interface, sorry. 3-output interface again for channel D, and a microphone connected. If I just click my fingers underneath the microphone, we can see there that we've got good connection. Nothing worse than going out on road just to find that something was wrong with your setup, so it is good practice to tap the accelerometer and click your fingers there by the microphone. Vehicle information, there's a brief summary. Not a lot with front wheel drive, actually it's very quick to set up, record and analyse, and off we go. So I've just pressed start recording. Let me stop recording so we can do that again. If I just flip the throttle, you'll see there that we're graphing engine speed. Channel A is our accelerometer. Well, it's A, B and C because they are displayed in what we call vector sum. If I change the display mode, so I right click on the frequency view and click on single, we'll get each individual axis. But just to make it easy on the eye during the initial road test, during display mode we'll go for vector sum. And the microphone is there now as well, which is decibel, and that's all this activity you can see on the yellow. Because this is a, well, we suspect a bearing, it's low frequency, so rather than have all this spectrum here all the way up to 2 kilohertz and beyond, it's certainly not that higher frequency. We can just click and drag and choose to focus on low frequency. I think we're going to sort of be between, certainly under 200 hertz, but let's get out on the road and see what happens. Okay, so we'll start recording now, and as you can see, it's very low road speed. So hopefully you caught there was a droning, like a whoa whoa type noise, and I think the maximum speed there was about 20 miles per hour. So here is the road test from the video, and I want to concentrate on this area here because this is where the road speed really started to build up to about 20 miles per hour. Notice also how thin this data is here and how broad the data is here. This is the black and the sort of dark burgundy laid on top of one another. That's the time domain data from the microphone and the accelerometer. Remember, I sort of focused on 3 areas here, and if we listen to the playback, you'll be able to hear the droning. It's best to listen to this on headphones. So hopefully you can hear that wow and wow noise captured in the cabin by the mic. I'm going to place a signal marker between here and here. This is right click, place signal marker. So we're focusing our attention now on this area here. We'll just bring this in. Remember, we'd got these key areas of peaks from the accelerometer, and I'm just going to drag the spectrum in. So it'll be nice and easy to sort of see how these sort of 3 peaks appear. I'm just going to click on the scale for the microphone, bring that down a little bit, and then we'll play again. So we go from here this time. And keep your eye now on this data here in the blue. Whine from the transmission there as well. Okay, so armed with that knowledge, we know between here, and I'm just going to broaden this out, we've got these events here. I'm going to right click, hide the microphone for now, still got that data, and I'm going to go for display mode single. And we want to know what the biggest offender is in terms of these 3 peaks of interest. It looks like here it is the vertical axis, which is red, and here it is a combination of green and red. Maybe we'll get a bit more clarity if I just slide the spectrum out there. Yeah, certainly there with these what we call side bands, you've got like 1 peak frequency, and then either side you've got multiple frequencies. That there is vertical and here is lateral. So we'll focus now on the area between the markers in single view, and pretty much we are very much lateral there. That's the z-axis. Then as we come into our marked areas, we've got red there, combination of green and red. Wow, certainly at that point there, by far the vertical. So it's a combination of vertical and lateral vibrations being affected, and I think out of all of them I'd be tempted to go with vertical. It doesn't matter which axis you choose, but what we want to do now is choose an axis to measure at each road wheel. So I'm going to keep the vertical axis on our accelerometer on the driver's seat, but I'm now going to add 2 more accelerometers to the front left and the front right road wheel. Okay, so here we are with the accelerometer mounted to the upper front caliper carrier bolt. Notice I've actually screwed the magnet on now through 90 degrees. You can actually reposition the magnet because the accelerometer is threaded as such. It allows you to do that. And we're going to choose just to measure the vertical axis, because remember, inside the cabin it was vertical that was being offended, or the offender, sorry. So we'll measure vertical here, and then just quickly the same again on the offside front. Hopefully you've got that. There we are. Yeah, same again. Chose the exact same location, so the same mass, same mounting point, so the variables are kept to a minimum, and then we'll compare left with right. Right, so we are set up now, and let me just run through how this is going to work. So I've taped up my accelerometers, you can see there, and I've got them in green and blue. Just helps with identification because you don't want to get this wrong. So the green goes off to the offside front wheel, the blue to the near side front, and then both those cables will eventually run through into the car. Now forget those for a minute. Let's look at the hardware setup as we had it for our initial run. We had a microphone on channel D, which goes up to the rear view mirror. We have a 3-axis accelerometer on the seat frame, you can see that there. But we're only interested in the y-axis. We want the vertical, so we'll take away the X and Z. That gives us now 2 channels that we can connect to 2 accelerometers. And this is where your colours come in. Notice my green accelerometer goes into my happy face screen interface, and we're going to measure just the y-axis of the accelerometer going to the offside front. And now the same with this one here, blue accelerometer, blue happy face interface, and y-axis. There we have it. So let's just summarize that so we're all comfortable with what's happening. The red channel B, y-axis, is measuring the vertical vibration on the seat frame. Y, channel C, is measuring the offside front wheel, vertical axis, and blue, channel A, measuring the near side front. So vertical, floor pan, offside front, right hand front, near side front, left hand front. And we may as well keep the microphone. Now this is where having multiple accelerometers really helps. So if you are, I mean, it's quite, I think, I shouldn't say this, I think it's quite cut and dry, it's a front bearing, but if it wasn't, you'd have 4 sensors, so you'd actually have 1 on each corner. I do like keeping an accelerometer inside the car as your reference, this one here. It's always good to have your reference because we're going to look for vibrations that align with what we originally found, but this will be good for now. Let's see how we get on. So given our new setup, we need to start again because we need to change the mode in which we're recording. We would be before we were 3-axis plus single channel. Now we are multiple sensors. There's a warning there that the data you saw on the previous screen will be lost. Well, it's a good warning. I do keep that up there because sometimes you can jump from one to another and maybe the data you'd captured previously was important. Anyway, multiple sensor mode, and we have 4 sensors connected. Remember, 3 accelerometers and 1 microphone on this scenario. So starting with channel A, it's a TA259, that's the 3 output interface. It's an accelerometer, and that one is, we'll call it engine compartment because it's outside the vehicle, and that one is the near side front caliper bolt. And this is vitally important you get this right, because if this data is incorrect, then your diagnosis will be incorrect. So again, the next one is channel B, which is our accelerometer in the passenger compartment. It's still a 3 output interface, it's still a 3-axis accelerometer, and this is near side front seat rail. The next one is the green. Again, it's a 3 output interface, TA259 and a TA143 accelerometer. That is engine compartment, or classed as, because that is the offside front caliper mounting bolt. Yeah. And then finally, channel D, you remember, was a 3 output interface, but it's a microphone. Doesn't matter which output you use on the 3 output interface. It's a microphone, it's passenger compartment, and it's rear view mirror. And it's always worth at this stage just summarizing, and I have missed a trick here. Orientation. It's good to note how you've got it mounted, and we have got it mounted in a vertical orientation. The seat one, again, that is vertical. This is not essential, doesn't change the data at all, but it's good practice, or best practice. The one on the offside front caliper was vertical, so they're all vertical. We're measuring the vertical axis. In fact, good shout is to add y-axis only, and that helps when you come to review the data, or even if you are sharing this data with technical support or for warranty. Y-axis only, so for all our accelerometers we're only measuring the y-axis. Rear view mirror, no need to worry about that. So there is our setup and configuration for multiple sensors for sensor mode. Okay, so before we start on road test, we'll start the recording. We're interested in low frequency, aren't we? Let's drag this away, drag these rulers off, so we've got a clear screen. In fact, to help here, just with interpretation and clearing the display, I'm going to hide a channel during our road test. So channel in view, I'll hide channel D. That doesn't mean now our audio is not being recorded, it just means it's being hidden from view. So any narration or any noise from the vehicle we'll still hear. Where possible, if you can avoid bumpy roads and avoid this sort of spiked appearance that you see in the signal history, that would be quite good. Not always possible. We're on a reasonably smooth road now. It's 40 miles an hour. I'm just going to press the space bar to pause the software, and we'll repeat that. Notice we were coasting then. Pause the software. The reason I'm pausing the software is it's not an endless recorder. You only have what is displayed on the graph view right now in the signal history. So if I allow these two peaks we see on the right of the signal history, where we got up to about 40 miles an hour, 38, 40 miles an hour, if we allow that to move across to the left hand side of the signal history, it will be gone forever. So yeah, perhaps good practice if I press the space bar and then press the S key, that's going to automatically save for me. So analysing the data from our road test, we can see here that I seem to go from 10 miles an hour straight up to 25 miles an hour very, very quickly. That's not the case. That's where I've paused the software at this point in time, carried on increasing my road speed, and then pressed pause again to release the pause, so we sort of rejoin the capture at 25 miles an hour. So that's, please don't mistake that for acceleration. Let's have a listen to the vibration and the wow wow noise. So that noise is certainly present, and it appears to be worse at a higher speed. Remember, during the first road test we were focused round about 22 miles per hour, something like that, and we were looking at sort of 3 peaks around here. What's clear is as road speed increases, so does the level of vibration and wow wow noise. In fact, that's quite interesting. Just look at that there. I'll pull the spectrum out. And we've got far more detail, haven't we? That is a far greater offender at that frequency, which we didn't analyse at 20 miles an hour. So there is a lesson learned. Maybe pull more of the spectrum in than just what you'd expect, sort of low frequency below 300 hertz. Anyway, a technique during the road test I want to share. Let me slide the spectrum back out here. Notice at this point how large E2 is during our acceleration. I'm going to use the step forward button. E2, a 4-cylinder engine attributed to combustion, to shocks, disturbances into the crankshaft every 1 revolution. This is because we're accelerating. Look what happens as I go past the peak acceleration. E2 is coming down, and then of course during overrun, taken my foot off. E2 is displayed here, but look at it in terms of vibration. In fact, if I hide channel D, we can see where the E2 vibration level is, not the audio level. E2 is right down there. Let's just drag this back. E2 is up there because we are accelerating. During deceleration, overrun, E2 is down here. No combustion, overrun, fuel cut. Anyway, yeah, wow wow noise is here. It's not related to engine speed because the vibration is still present during idle speed. And let's highlight this area between here and here. That collectively looks at vibrations between 210 approximate and just over 220 seconds. I think, certainly now going on what we can see here, our greatest offender is most certainly the accelerometer, the blue accelerometer. And where is that? That is at the near side front caliper bolt. So no prizes for guessing which is the offending bearing here, or offending hub. I think really it only leaves a bearing on this vehicle, but please don't jump to conclusions. Channel in view, let's compare channel A with channel C. So that is comparing the left hand hub, which is blue, with the right hand hub, which is green, and there is no comparison, especially in this area here. So over and above the comparison between these two waveforms, if you like, channel A and channel C, we can actually export the data in an audio format, so we could listen to this data. So this is now listening to accelerometers, very similar to a stethoscope, I guess. So in this highlighted area, right click and export region to WAV. Now we can export all of them, or we can just do our chosen, and we're interested in channel A. So we'll give channel A a name, and we'll call this, it's test 003, and this one is channel A, and it's, I'll call it 210 to 230, and that's seconds. We'll save that, and then we'll do the same again, right click, selected region, and it is channel C this time. So if I click on that, we can just change that letter to C and save. So let's open up channel A and have a listen to the bearing on the left hand front. And channel C, right hand front. Channel A once more. I think we can agree, if you're listening on headphones, that wow wow noise is crystal clear on the left hand side, which is channel A. So from here on in, we are warranted in removing and replacing that bearing. Okay, so here's the offending bearing dismantled, and this is the inner race of the inner section of the bearing. So as the hub passes through, this one here would be the outer against the hub flange. This would be the inner. The reason this one is discoloured like it is, and also there are hopefully there we are, the witness marks, is because the way in which it's had to come off, that was seized on the flange, hence the cut. Interesting how the balls associated with that race are different colour to what we have on the inner. So the inner suggests maybe we had some form of ingress into there, but there's the offender. I think just look at that there. Let me see if I can zoom in. I think that's a pitted race. That will do me. And this is the outer race that would have been the outer race to this inner race here. I'm not sure how good the camera's going to pick this up, but this wasn't so pitted, but there were witness marks in that race. You can see them just about. Okay, so there we have it, near side front wheel bearing. Okay, so here we are after fix. So left hand front wheel bearing replaced, and we're at 20 miles an hour now. So here we are analysing this post-fix capture, and I want to talk about this area here. This is what we get, this is bouncing. Remember these two accelerometers attached to the road wheel, so can you imagine just how much impact they are subjected to, whereas you look at the accelerometer attached to the chassis or the seat rail, there's hardly any event there. So the fact that it's low frequency, we're at 14 Hertz, that's 18 Hertz, you're not going to hear any of that. That is just going to be bumps, strikes, harshness. It's not continual, so if I was to press play, you'll see how that is fluctuating backwards and forwards. It's taking on all kinds of shapes. In effect, that's the wheel bouncing along the road, or maybe a better explanation is being controlled. It's rise and fall by the shock absorber and the suspension. This is quite intriguing here. This you would hear, but it is not prolonged, and it kind of tallies up with this here. So if I look in the signal history, you see this strike here. If I place my marker over it, that's the effect of that strike. So this is uneven road surface, all this activity here. What we've got to try and find in our signal history is a stretch where our road speed was fixed and the spikes here were kept to a minimum, and I think the best we've probably got on this road test was about here. So we'll ignore this, okay, and we'll focus on, I think what we had in the original one was the original 20 miles an hour capture was 111, 223 and 334 Hertz. We had that group of 3, didn't we? So we'll pull this all the way in and see what we've got. So to compare against the original capture, we need to hide a couple of channels because we want to remove channel A and channel C, because because those are connected to the front caliper mounting bolts. Channel B is on our seat rail, and we just chose the vertical axis, if you remember. So if we push this up here, we had remember the 3 peaks, didn't we, at 20 miles an hour. In fact, let me bring the original capture back in, so that will refresh our memory from what we had. So here is what we had on the road before. Just maximize this, hide a few channels. So we don't need D, that's the microphone. What we'll do, we'll just focus on B. Remember, this is the accelerometer from the original capture. This is just on the seat rail, but I'm choosing to show just the y-axis. And I've gone for 18 miles an hour as a comparison. Let's get the scaling sort of similar. We were kind of intrigued by 3 peaks here, weren't we? In fact, if I just move on a little bit, they become, I think, a lot more pronounced as the speed increased. But because I've chose 18 miles per hour as my during my initial post-fix test, we'll have to use that for comparison. So let's get the scales on something similar. In fact, let me split the screen here. That will probably work better. So we compare apples with apples. So on the left hand side here, we have the post-fix capture of the vertical vibration at the seat rail. And on the right hand side, we have the before fix capture, again vertical axis at the seat rail. Let's get them on sort of similar ranges so we're comparing like for like. So 25.4, 25.6, and we were feeling far more vibration levels by comparison. I mean, if we just pull a ruler down here, let's go from there, 6.64 millig. We are half at that point, aren't we? I just wish I'd gone for something a little bit quicker, like 20 miles per hour, because you can see here as that speed increases, it just becomes more dramatic, doesn't it, here in this area. But the real telltale is when we actually look at left and right hand accelerometers at the wheel hub before and after fix. Okay, because we can, let's try and get this at a faster speed. So that's 35 and now neutral selected. Just coasting away. Yeah, very good. Okay, referring to the previous video then, here is our capture. Ideally I would have liked to kept the road surface or run on a road surface that was a bit smooth. You see all these spikes here in this area, that is a problem. Nevertheless, when we compare it with the previous one, which I'll bring in a second, it's like chalk and cheese. This here most likely to be bouncing here. We could probably prove that just by moving that along. Yeah, let me just press play. Yeah, see, that has gone now completely at that point. Move it to there. There it is. That's this area here I was concerned about. So if I just drag out during the coasting section, round about there, wasn't it? Yeah. Pretty much depends where we place that, doesn't it? It's quite critical. We move it to there. Okay, either way. So that area there, let's bring in the previous one, so before fix, and let's put them side by side. So let's go Windows key left and click on here, Windows key right, and my word, I think that speaks volumes, doesn't it? Notice how we've kept our engine speed low. We were coasting. We've repeated the test. Unfortunately, the after fix road surface was not as smooth as the before fix road surface. All the same, just look at that. Note, remember the red is the vibration in the chassis, the blue is the left hand hub, the green is the right hand hub. So I'm very pleased with that. Great use of multiple sensor mode. Let me just move on now to reference waveforms. Now, using reference waveforms in Pico Diagnostics NVH, a little tip here. I've got 2 sessions of Pico Diagnostics open. Obviously after fix, before fix. Try and keep everything the same when you take your reference waveform. So here we are coasting approximately 30 miles an hour. Same again, coasting just over 30 miles, 31 miles an hour. Keep your scales the same. Okay, 67.4, 67.2, that's close enough. Keep your spectrum width the same. So we've gone from 0 to 125. Now then, save both as that. So save them both the same. So when you go File, Save As for each, they will save with this configuration, such that when you reopen the file, it will appear exactly the same. So we'll close this, and we will we'll take a reference. So right click in the frequency view, reference waveforms, and we'll go for channel A because that is our offender. Click on OK, and there it is. That is now our reference. If we now pull in the previous one, the after fix, I'm just going to drag it and drop it straight onto here. Yeah, there we keep our reference waveform against the the after fix waveform, and they are chalk and cheese, aren't they? So right click now, channel in view. We'll keep channel A from our post fix vehicle, and there we have it. Rather than using 2 sessions of Pico Diagnostics NVH, create a reference waveform of the offender, as I've done here. Once you've done that, that will remain with the session that you have open. Drag and drop the post-fix waveform in, and choose the channel that you wish to compare, and there we have it. So here we have the after fix in blue, coasting down from 30 miles an hour. Before fix in the magenta, again coasting from 30 miles an hour. I hope that helps.